Ducky. At the age of 6 weeks, Moto started to play with Mr. Ducky, the way a serval kitten in the wild would play with a sibling. He would stalk Mr. Ducky, pounce on him, and grab him by the neck. Playing like this helps serval kittens begin to develop their hunting skills. It meant that Moto's natural instinct to hunt and kill prey was starting to kick in. Of course, Moto's other playmate was me. He loved to surprise me and attack my shoes. He loved shoelaces. Sometimes he'd pounce on my legs or wrestle my hand. Moto's claws weren't very sharp yet, and he still had his baby teeth, so it didn't hurt. These games were just pure fun. A wild serval kitten plays with its mother this way too. Every time I saw Moto doing something that a serval would do in the wild, I was really happy. If he was going to survive on his own in the bush, he needed to know how to act like a wild serval. Servals hunt a variety of small animals, including mice, rats, birds, rabbits, lizards, insects, frogs, and fish. Mr. Ducky was about the same size as this prey, so he was perfect. He was perfect practice for Moto. Moto's first mouse. As Moto grew older, I began blending some chicken meat with his milk. I called it a chicken smoothie. He loved these smoothies and quickly preferred them to his regular milk. With his new taste for meat and his recent play hunting with Mr. Ducky, I knew Moto was ready for his first mouse. In the wild, a mother serval brings dead mice to her kittens. The kittens enjoy their first taste of prey from the safety of their grass nest. In time, they learn to hunt for themselves. On the day I gave Moto his first mouse, I wasn't sure what would happen. To my surprise, he knew exactly what to do. He grabbed it from my hand and hissed at me. Apparently, he didn't want to share. Moto took the mouse right back to his nest, which was my bed. He devoured his prey in minutes. Moto knew exactly what to do when he graduated from hunting Mr. Ducky to eating real prey. Ooh, mice became Moto's favorite food. Moto captures a piece of bark. Moto the wild hunter. Adult servers are excellent hunters. They are known for their long, strong legs and incredible jumps. They can jump high in the air and land swiftly and silently enough to catch a mouse by surprise. It takes time to build up this strength and coordination, though. So, when Moto was around 4 months old, it was time for him to start learning how to catch his own prey. To become a hunter, Moto had to explore the bush on his own, without me watching over him. I started to leave my tent flap unzipped all the time, so Moto could come and go as he pleased. There wasn't any fences around camp, and he could wander as far as he wanted. Sometimes he would disappear for hours. At first, I worried about him, but he always came back. Moto roamed freely in the bush around camp, practicing stalking, running, pouncing, and jumping. Soon he was catching mice, locusts, and lizards and bringing them back to me. I was very proud of him. Learning how to hunt was a huge step in being able to take care of himself. After one hunt, Moto came back with a piece of bark to show me. I smiled and shook my head, thinking, silly Moto. Like all servals, Moto has very large, sensitive ears that are like radar dishes. Servals can hear small prey hiding deep in the grass, even under the ground. When he hears a mouse in the grass, he pounces. Moto hears something in the long grass. Is it food or a threat? He plays with his prey, and then he captures it. Staying safe. For Moto, one of the most important parts of growing up was learning how to protect himself. A serval's predators include lions, leopards, hyenas, and wild dogs. All these animals could be found around camp and sometimes even in camp, so Moto got lots of practice learning to avoid them. When he was frightened, Moto's natural response was to arch his back and puff out his fur to look bigger. All servals try to scare off threats this way. They also climb trees to escape predators, and Moto quickly became an excellent climber. For the first time, I saw Moto in his defensive posture. I was impressed. He looked much bigger and fiercer than he really was. Servals are most at risk of being attacked when they are in open areas away from trees. They have to rely on hiding in savannas, tall grasses, to avoid being seen. Moto was naturally cautious in open areas. He spent a lot of time laying low in long grass. The spots on his coat helped him blend in with the sunlight and shadows in the grass, making him much harder to see. Moto would scurry up a tree at the first hint of danger. Sometimes he wouldn't come down for hours. Moto's first fishing lesson. No more milk for Moto. Until Moto was 5 months old, I gave him at least 1 bottle of milk a day. But then it was time to wean himself off milk. Gradually, I gave him less and less until he got none at all. Serval kittens in the wild are weaned when they are between 4 and 7 months of age. Moto was not happy about the loss of his milk. He whined loudly and batted me with his paws. To distract him, I gave him some special treats. One day I put a small catfish in a bowl for him. I wanted to teach Moto how to fish, since wild servals eat fish from time to time. At first he had no idea what to do with the catfish, and he spent a long time just batting it with his paws. There was a lot of splashing, but in the end, he caught it and ate it. Without milk, Moto had to learn to drink water instead. It would be necessary for his survival in the wild. At certain times of the year, the Masai Mara is very dry. Servals must drink water whenever they find it. At first, Moto was more interested in playing with water than drinking it. As he grew older, he learned to drink water regularly. Moto on safari. When Moto was a little kitten hanging out in my shirt pouch, he went with me on all my game drives. As he got older and grew big enough to be on his own, he usually spent his days at camp without me. But Moto still loved to ride in my Jeep, so every once in a while I would take him out on a game drive. Together we watched zebras, elephants, giraffes, and even cheetahs. Just as he did when he was a kitten, Moto spent hours gazing out the window at the different animals. I don't know why he was so fascinated. There were no fences at the camp, so he had seen all these animals before, with no glass between him and them. But Moto loved being on safari in my Jeep, and I loved having him as my companion. Some of my best memories from my time in Africa are the game drives I went on with Moto. I loved watching him watching the animals on the savannah. Moto was strong and confident, and he could be very fierce. Growing independent. By the time Moto was 8 months old, he was nearly the size of an adult serval. He weighed about 30 pounds, almost 14 kilograms. Occasionally, Moto still tried to play with me, but I wanted to avoid this. Now his claws were like razors, and he could be very aggressive. Sometimes he would get so excited that he would accidentally scratch my arms and face. Moto didn't need much from me anymore. He could hunt for himself and clean himself, and he seemed able to protect himself from predators. Like a wild serval, Moto was becoming active at dawn, dusk, and nighttime. He slept most of the day. But for a few minutes before he left to hunt each night, Moto still came into my tent. He jumped in bed and cuddled with me, purring loudly. Then he would hop off and quickly slip into the darkness outside. Even though I wanted him to be as independent as possible, I treasured those moments of cuddling. Moto returns to the wild. Then one night, Moto didn't come to my tent. I woke up in the morning very worried. The day passed without any sign of him, and then the next, and the next. I was terrified that something bad had happened to Moto. A leopard had been prowling around camp, and I feared the worst. I was heartbroken. About a week later, I was driving near camp and spotted a serval. "Moto?" I called to him, and he came to my Jeep window and rolled around in the dirt. I knew this was Moto's way of saying hello. Over the next few weeks, several rangers who knew Moto saw him too. He had made it. My job as his foster mom was done. I returned to the United States about a year and a half after Moto returned to the wild. Although I don't live in Africa anymore, it still feels close. I cherish my memories of the bush camp, my game drives, and my time with Moto. I think of him all the time. I love to picture him hunting in the long grass of the savannah, under the African moon, but most of all, I like to think that Moto has become a father to kittens of his own. Even though I missed Moto, I was thrilled that he had returned to the wild. It was everything I dreamed of for him. All about servals. Servals are medium-sized wildcats found in Africa. Servals have a spotted coat that act as camouflage, making their bodies difficult to see. This helps them stalk prey and hide from predators. Adult servals can weigh up to 40 pounds, 18 kilograms, and stand up to 2 feet tall, 60 centimeters. Some people sell pet cats called savanna cats, which are a cross between servals and domestic cats. These cats can be expensive and hard to care for. A better choice is to adopt one of the millions of stray domestic cats in desperate need of a home. Like most cats, servals are solitary, which means they live alone. The exception is serval mothers with kittens. Of all the cats, servals have the longest legs and biggest ears for their body size. Servals can use their long legs to run up to 50 miles, 80 kilometers per hour, and jump up to 12 feet, almost 4 meters, to catch birds in the air. Servals are incredible hunters. While most cats catch prey only 10% of the time, servals are successful about 50% of the time. Ancient Egyptians worshipped servals as gods. They appear on ancient Egyptian statues and other artifacts. Some servals have all black coats. These are called melanistic servals. They look like small black panthers, which are actually melanistic leopards or jaguars. Melanistic animals have a special gene that causes them to produce more of a dark pigment called melanin in their skin and hair. In some parts of Africa, serval populations are at risk. Their savanna habitat is being destroyed by agriculture and development. In addition, many farmers kill servals because they sometimes prey on chickens. People also hunt servals for their fur. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed reading about Moto and Me.